This is another Ridercast, Episode 9. Join me as I travel through and sample 20 years of Hesei-era Kamen Rider. Today I'm going to be talking about Kamen Rider Kiva. So let's start off with the meta information. Kamen Rider Kiva aired from January 27, 2008 to January 18, 2009. The first episode was entitled Fate, Wake Up! The second episode was Sweet, Father and Son Violin. The first two episodes were written by Toshiki Inoue. They were directed by Ryuta Tasaki. I don't know, I have such a hard time with that name. And the suit actor of note for this episode is Seiji Takawa, who played Kamen Rider Kiva. The OP, which we hear, is called Break the Chain. The lyricist, like usual, was Fujibayashi Shoko. The composer was Shuhei Naruse. And for the arrangement, there's a lot of stuff here copied straight from the Wikia, and I'm going to read to you. So the arranger supposedly was the same as the singer Turbulon with Shuhei Naruse, and then there's like a different version of it that has, which is this Nippon Columbia version, which is arranged by Yasuma Sato, and then the Rider Chips version, Cher Watanabe was the arranger there. So I don't know if Cher's a man or a woman, but that's interesting. Again, the singer of the actual song, the guy who says "Buck Buck Beatin' Heart," or "Bomb Bomb," whatever, is this Turbulon or Turbilon. It's almost like billion, but without an I. And anyway, they did the Rider Chips version apparently, or no? Is there the different versions? I don't know. Anyway, the whole music thing is very complicated to me, and I should probably drop it because it's too much. So I will go ahead and move on to talking about the premise of Kamen Rider Kiva. Kamen Rider Kiva's premise is quite muddy by the end of episode 2. The story spans 22 years and shows a small group fighting against the Fangires who prey on humans. In 1986, Yuri Aso meets Otoya Kurenai. In 2008, his son Wataru Kurenai is living a cloistered life in between fighting Fangire as Kiva. And then there's Megumi, who is the daughter of Yuri, who is also part of this group fighting the Fangire. And there's at least one other person fighting the Fangire alongside her, but that's about it. This time for the cast, I'm going to give a brief description of all of them and then talk about their dynamics together. So the first person we meet from 2008 is Wataru. He becomes Kamen Rider Kiva. He believes he is above or beyond human and doesn't want to be contaminated by them. He is the son of Otoya Kurenai, and he's trying to build a violin like his dad's. Megumi is a model who fights the Fangire like her mother, Yuri Aso, and she's got an interesting personality. Going back to 1986, we have Yuri Aso. Yuri works at Cafe Moldamore by day and fights Fangire by night, but also during the day sometimes. She is serious and courageous, a capable fighter, and she's scared of a puppy owned by the owner or Masta of the cafe. Shizuka calls herself Wataru's mom. She helps take care of him, from talking for him in public to minding the store while he is away. Kiva the Third, he's like a butler to Wataru. He bites him to help him transform and can also fight a bit, and he kind of gives him advice too, and he does some interesting different things. I don't know what to say about Kiva. He's a very interesting, weirdest toy character that I've met so far. Anyway, then there's Shima, who issues orders to Megumi, and at least one other operative who I mentioned earlier. His name is Nago Keisuke, but we don't get to see him in this episode, although he is in the preview for episode 3. Otoya Kurenai is a master violinist and violin maker who has quit playing professionally. He does odd jobs instructing people in playing the violin. He's enamored by Yuri, and he persistently gets himself involved in her life, and I'm not 100% sure why just yet, other than he wants to get to know her better. Then we've got Shima. He issues orders to Yuri based on intelligence gathered on the Fangire's activities. And then we've got Master. He and Shima banter. He employs Yuri, and his name seems to be Kido based on the notes in his little notebook of this competition with Shima. So generally, the chemistry between the cast or the characters and in their different realms is interesting. As I mentioned, Shima and Master have like a real interesting, playful banter. Cafe Maldemar is frequented by people in both 1986 and 2008. I mean, principal cast members, of course, and then their supporting cast. So that's interesting. I'm going to start with Yuri. She's a really cool character. I really like her. I've seen Kiva all the way through, and the first time I watched it, I was just waiting for her to become a Kamen Rider, because that's how she seemed, and that's how she seems in this first episode, and it's all very interesting. Otoya, on the other hand, is very interesting. He's not so frustrating just yet, but I really don't get him. I don't get that type of man. But at the same time, he kind of comes off as a enjoyable idiot or fool who I actually like watching his exploits. I don't know if that's because of me watching through the second time, even though it's been probably close to 2 years since I've seen Kiva, or what. But I don't know. He's an interesting guy because he does some things. Like, he obviously is interested in Yuri in a amorous fashion, but he does stuff like he pretends that he's trying to, I don't know, creep on her or whatever, invade her personal space, but it's because he steals her gear in order to fight a Fangire, and that doesn't seem normal. And she even brings up to him, like, hey, seeing these monsters doesn't freak you out or anything? Like, what's wrong with you? What kind of person are you? And that's very interesting, because I'm not sure what kind of person he is, and I'm not, well, anyway, that's all I'll say for now. So that's interesting. Shima and Yuri have just a very basic boss-subordinate relationship. There doesn't seem to be anything special about them. I think that's all the people she interacts with in the past. And then going up to 2008, we've got Wataru and Megumi. I'm going to start with Wataru and Shizuka. Their relationship is interesting. Like, I don't know where she comes from or why she sticks around Wataru to help him, but it's interesting. I'm guessing they're neighbors maybe, and that they interacted with each other somehow in childhood or something like that. I think he's supposed to be in school. No, he should be like 22 now, but she's a high schooler, so even more so, I don't quite understand how they got together. But I enjoy her interactions with him, and how there's like a tension, a push-pull. Like, she wants to be able to pull him out into the world, but she seems content to, for now, be by his side and like guide him through it. Trying to, I guess, like, help the guy out because he's a bit of a sucker. And she's capable and can bear the burden, I guess you could say, of all that, which is interesting. Let's see. Let's go to Shima and Megumi. Again, another like pretty straight boss-employee relationship. So nothing too surprising there. Now going to Wataru and Kivat, because they're a natural pair. Like, they seem to have lived together for quite some time. And like, Kivat is giving him advice and kind of talking down to him. Like, he feels like he's an older person who deserves some respect from Wataru, but there seems to be like a familiarity and an intimacy between them, and not just because the tub thing, but just in general. So that's interesting. And then Wataru and Megumi, he remarks on the fact, or like, he doesn't deny, well, he's not interested in her beauty, but he doesn't deny that he thinks she's beautiful. But Kivat mentions something about it, and he's like, no, I'm not thinking about her at all. I'm thinking about this other thing. About the me potentially being human, or just as low as humans, and how terrible that is. But it's funny because she like tries to pull him, like, Shizuka kind of like tries to guide Wataru out of his shell maybe, but Megumi straight up, she pulls the mask off of his face. She's moving his arms, pumping pumping his arms up and down and telling him to breathe in and stuff. And she just takes a very different approach. And whereas I might say that Shizuka, could harbor an interest in Wataru, I don't think Megumi has any interest in him at all, romantically. And that proves out later in the series with some comments that she makes, but just even from this episode, like, she makes the comment like, oh, you're actually cute under that mask, or surprisingly cute under that mask. How interesting. But like, not like she's interested. It's just a fact that she mentions. But she probably has, attractive guys running after her all the time being a model. So I don't know, just very weird, interesting character dynamics. It'd be interesting. I'm intrigued by the whole mention of Nago, and how Shima is, managing him, and he's saying like, oh, don't tell Nago about this because he's gonna try to kill Kiva. And like, so what's this guy like? And she tried to shoot Kiva, but it didn't work. Was she not trying to kill him? I don't know. That's interesting. But But I think that's all I really want to say about the character. Well, I'm going to go back to Otoya and Yuri. He's obviously romantically interested in her, or at least that's what he presents, and she does not seem to be romantically interested in him at all, and she keeps pushing off his advances. But he makes a comment to her about how he's her, destined man or whatever, because she ends up going to protect this violinist, and he's actually there instructing the violinist, and she's shocked that he's there, and he just kind of plays it off blithely, like he was unaware of anything, and says, oh, it must be destiny. And he makes all these innuendos and kind of advances and passes at her, and she just shrugs them off and deflects them. And I don't know, it's an interesting dynamic. It's a very interesting dynamic. Obviously, Kurenai, Otoya is Wataru's dad, but we don't know at this point in the show who his mom is. If it turns out to be Yuri, that's very interesting, because Megumi is Yuri's daughter, so that would make them actual brother and sister. But we don't know any of that, and the show keeps jumping back and forth in time and stuff. So it doesn't quite make sense. And why would he be her brother? And it just there's like a whole set of intriguing character relationships that are set up and alluded to here, and they intrigue me. And I pretty much just enjoy all the interactions between the cast so far. Like there's the cute little thing about Yuri being scared of the dog at Maldemore. Kito's dog, and I'm pretty sure the dog in 2008 can't be the dog from 86, because it's a 20-year span, and dogs usually don't live that long. So anyway, it's just kind of funny that there's the through line though of the puppy back then and then the adult dog in the present. So anyway, that's and then another thing is Kito seems to have enough of a familiarity with Megumi that when she's scolding Shizuka and giving her a real rough time when they're all together in the restaurant, he's just like, oh man, Megumi's not even showing any mercy to a girl, like a fellow woman. There's no sisterhood or solidarity. She's just going, she's firing on a full assault, and it kind of suggests to me that there's a familiarity there with them too. But maybe if she's Megumi's daughter or Yuri's daughter, and she worked at Maldemore with Kito, then I guess that would make sense that there would be a familiarity there. So it's just, the more I think about it, the more interesting all the relationships are between the cast. And I think everybody blended well together. Okay, I'm very excited to talk about design this episode, because there's really three factions of design to talk about. We've got the Fangire, we've got Kiva, and we've got the group, or the hunters, the Fangire hunters, I'll call them right now. That is one scary looking horse Orphanok. By the way, we get a horse, a spider in the first episode, a horse in the second episode, or also in the first? Yeah, also in the first, and then an octopus in the second episode. So if you're watching the video version of this, you're getting to see some of these designs up close and personal, and I gotta say, I love the Fangire designs. Stained glass appeals to me because I think it's beautiful. I kind of grew up semi-Catholic, so seeing stained glass in the church and stuff, and I just think it's really cool. There's a great thing with the octopus where even her long tentacled arm, it has a rainbow gradient on it with the black, leaded parts in between. And there's just so many great shots of the stained glass from all over the place, and it's nice. I don't know if all of them have a rainbow gradient, but they mostly seem to, and it's they've got this base black, material on them, and then there's also supposed to be in between all the coloring this patchwork or gradient representing the lead in between stained glass, and then so that's a really beautiful, really striking aesthetic. But then also the Fangire have these things that they can do where they can transform their bodies beyond their human disguises and their Fangire forms. They can manipulate their Fangire forms, and the octopus for some reason creates wheels, a spiked spinning wheel type design for itself, and it gives itself these roller blades of death that it tries to run away from Kiva with and then tries to attack him. Okay, so they all kind of have their own distinct color patterns. The spider has a lot of yellow and green and pink and purple, I guess, whereas the octopus was red, orange, and yellow, and then its tentacles had a rainbow gradient on them, which is interesting. And they have exposed mouths and opening mouth parts. Even the octopus had a mouth on its sternum or at the bottom of its C-bone or breastbone, like an octopus would have, and it was almost like the back was the mantle, and then there were all the tentacles everywhere. And then another amazing transformation thing they can do, the horse we get to see in episode 1, it breaks off a part of its arm, or the glass from its arm, and then the glass falls into shards that turn into a sword at its feet, and then it picks it up and fights Wataru with that. So that's really interesting. All the design stuff looks really cool. Something creepy and cool is that when the Fangire attack people, they don't have to be in their full monster form. They get this stained glass work on their necks and cheeks, and then they attack people, and they like turn them into clear glass, like they're sucking the life, the color, I don't know what that's supposed to represent, out of them, and that's pretty darn interesting. So then going back over to Wataru, when he transforms, he has Kiva bite him on his hand. Veins begin to spider out from where he's bitten, and then on his face he has a Fangire-like pattern of red and yellow streaks coming up onto his face from like his chest, and it looks like stained glass too. So like he's very much pulling from their aesthetic in the same way that, Rider, like the original Rider did, having a similar link to the design and origin of his enemies, from Shocker. So after that, Wataru gets the lines on his face, so like, kind of Fangire-y looking, and then chains form around his waist, and then it turns into his belt, and then Kiva actually hangs upside down on his belt, which is brilliant, especially because of the fact that he's got these whistle things that he can put into Kiva's mouth, and they can do different things in this episode. In episode 1 and 2, we see them used to start up his finisher, which allows him to do this ridiculous, crazy, powerful kick that destroys the enemies. Something else Kiva does while he is in Wataru's Kiva belt or whatever is he can actually do stuff. He talks. The horse Fangire tries to stab at Kiva in the gut, and Kiva bites it, which is really funny. And then the whole design behind the sequence of the rider kick is really, really interesting. It's very intricate. It's simple, but kind of intricate at the same time. He pulls out this like bat-looking whistle thing. He puts it in Kiva's mouth. Kiva gets up and flies around Wataru or Kiva, and then he flies past his leg, and his right leg has armor kind of similar to his shoulder armor with chains all around it, and Kiva flies around that, and the chains break open, and then Kiva's right leg turns into this weird like bat-winged thing, and it has like these 3 green eyes on it, which I focused on. It all looks very gothic, it looks very creepy, it looks very powerful and menacing, and it's very cool. I kind of don't like how much of the rider kick is like a stock footage, personally, but I think I understand why they did it, and I think it looks pretty good. I didn't mind it at all in these 2 episodes, but it's crazy the way that he kicks the Fangire, and then they almost like they're deteriorating from that form, and they're almost like turning into pure glass, and then he actually shatters them, and it's cool. The 3 eyes on his leg light up, and they like, there's 3 eyes, so one glows first, and then it passes to the second, and then the third, and then like energy is pushed out of there, and then it ends up shattering the Fangire altogether. And then it has this soul thing that he's got this crazy dragon, which is called Castle Duran, I believe. It like flies out of a high-rise building, and then it's able to eat them, which is totally ridiculous, and like I don't know if that was meant to sell toys or what, but anyway. And there's a really cool shot, a couple cool shots you get of his leg in its open form, and it seals back up after he does the rider kick, which is pretty interesting. And then, like I said, the castle comes along, and it eats like the soul of the Fangire or something. And there's this really interesting thing that they say that like God has erred in allowing Fangires to exist. That's what Yuri and Megumi both say, and like I'm going to rectify that, and that's pretty interesting. Speaking of Yuri and Megumi, they both have weapons that are multi-purpose. They have like a sword and like a whip. The sword breaks up, and it's able to become like a whip that can be used for grappling a Fangire or striking them from far away, and then it can be reassembled for hitting them again. We get to see both Yuri and Megumi use weapons like this, although Yuri's weapon is like a sword with a whiplash chain thing, and Megumi's is more like a gun that has the ability to shoot out, bullets or arrows, kind of, and then it does the whiplash thing as well, where she can kind of slack it and then use it to whip around. Like I'd mentioned earlier, Otoya steals her gear, and you get a closer look at it. It's interesting because it's like 2 sticks that snap together at a 45-degree angle or something weird. and like I said, she can use it in a sword form too. So it's a really interesting set of weapons. They share similar design features. They feature these wings on them in different ways, and Megumi has this thing where she can it's like a gun mainly, and she can load different things into it. I don't know if these different modules or clips or whatever that she puts in them serve different, or like how they serve different functions, or if it's completely, dependent upon, what's put in when, or if it's just a click of a button or what. But it's a really interesting thing, and I like the idea of it. I'd like to see more of the tech that they have. So what are my overall thoughts on Kamen Rider Kiva? These first 2 episodes, I really, really dig it. I'm going to share my bias with you. It's a little late, but Kiva's my favorite Kamen Rider, maybe. Anyway, top 3 Kamen Riders for me as far as what I've enjoyed out of the, 13 or so that I've seen. And I don't just mean debuts, I mean I've seen to completion 13 seasons of Kamen Rider. And I really, really, really like Kiva. I love all the how intricate the narrative is. It kind of feels like it's a gimmick jumping between 86 and 2008, but it's also, very interesting and intriguing, and I'm wondering, I want to know what it's all about, and I really want to watch more of it. I love the creepiness of the designs. The Fangires are, seemingly great enemies, and all of his gear is really cool, and Wataru seems like a really interesting character, especially having seen the series through once already, knowing the things I know. I really feel like watching it a second time, I would benefit greatly from it, especially because I started thinking of some different things about the other characters that I wasn't able to think about before because I didn't know them or know the secrets behind them, or I didn't know the full connections between everybody. And I feel like knowing that all will help me to have a better understanding of who they are and what what Inoue and the creatives were going for when they structured the story in this way. So I really like it. It's exciting. I love the music. Just everything's really, really good about it. So I'm here for Kiva. It's partially nostalgia, and it's partially because I like it so much, but watching this is one of the most joyful watchings or viewings of a debut pair of episodes for another writer cast that I've done so far. Besides Hibiki was amazing, and Deno was really good. But Deno, Hibiki, Kiva, they're in the tops for me right now as far as enjoyability, not necessarily how good it actually is, because maybe Kuuga is better than them objectively, if you can say that, but I think I still like these ones better. If you enjoyed this, I'd love it if you would share it. You can subscribe, ring the notification bell so you can get more of these. This is released on YouTube in a video format, and it's also released on mjmunoz.com in an audio-only format, but the video's linked there too, and there's maybe notes and different things. I'm trying to make it as a rich experience as I can for y'all, so you can check that out. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this. I'm loving doing these, and if you want to help me out, drop a comment, tell me how to do better, and you can, if you feel compelled to, you can support me through coffee.com/mjmunoz, because that's the thing I'm doing as I'm doing these and so much more.